Okay, let's set the scene. Picture a traveler walking through a world that's just bursting with life. It's the middle of the day, the sun is high. But then they come across these shadowy figures. Their heads are bowed and they're whispering about a grand finale. These, my friends, are the preachers of death.
See, for these preachers, life itself is the problem. It's a mistake. They look at a beautiful, ripening piece of fruit, and all they can possibly see is the rot that's coming. It's like they carry the chill of the tomb with them, you know? Their highest wisdom, their whole philosophy, is just about finding the fastest exit from the sunlight. To them, this entire journey we call life is just a long, painful prelude to the grave.
Now, our guide in all of this, Zarathustra, he's watching these figures he calls the yellow-coated ones. He sees them on the spiritual street corners, not selling anything you'd want, but peddling this gray tonic of renunciation. It's a philosophy that basically tells you to give up on life before you've even had a real shot at it. Their entire way of thinking is built on just systematically getting life wrong. They see someone dancing, full of joy, and they think, nope, that's just the twitching of a body in its death throes. They see love, not as this amazing, profound joy, but just as the setup for a future heartbreak. They're like spiders, weaving this sticky web they call eternal rest, just hoping to catch anyone who's simply too tired to keep their eyes on the horizon. But Zarathustra doesn't just lump them all together. No, he's like a diagnostician for the soul, and he identifies three very distinct types. The first group, well, they're probably the most pitiable. He calls them the consumptive ones of the soul. These are the people who, it seems, were just born tired, born already weary of a world they haven't even had a chance to really experience. I mean, think about that. They complain about the hangover before they've even had a sip of the wine. Before they've really even walked, they're already looking for a place to sit down. They've never known what Zarathustra calls the great noon, that absolute peak moment of vitality and strength. Nope. Their entire existence has been this long, gray twilight, lived out on a metaphorical sickbed. And this is where Zarathustra delivers his really stark verdict. He says their longing for death isn't some kind of holy wisdom. It's just the natural conclusion for a life that was never really lived to begin with. Their end is just the fulfillment of how they started. They're not holy, they're simply unlived. So the next group of preachers is a bit different, a little more complicated. They don't preach death because they're tired, they preach it from a place of this bitter, twisted kind of virtue. They've actually convinced themselves that by hating life, they're somehow becoming more holy, that their contempt for the world is a badge of spiritual honor. Their logic is a total paradox. By despising the body, its desires, the sheer beauty of the earth, they think they're honoring the spirit. They see this world as a trap, a temptation that needs to be overcome. Their whole goal is to erase themselves here, to become nothing on this planet, all in the hope of becoming everything somewhere else, out beyond the stars. But Zarathustra, he sees right through this. He diagnoses their so-called virtue as what it really is, a form of revenge. They preach a holy no to life because they just lack the spiritual strength, the lungs as he calls it, for a big, booming, holy yes. So their rejection of the world, it's not a choice made from a position of power. It's just a sour grapes reaction to a world they couldn't handle. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most tragic group. These folks aren't the weary-born or the resentful ones. No, these are the noble ones, the fallen heroes who were once absolutely full of life's fire. They fought, they loved, they really went for it, and they just got tired of the fight. See, unlike that first group, these individuals did experience the peak of life. They stood right in the full glare of the sun, but its light was just too blinding, too intense. Exhausted from the constant struggle, they turned their backs on the light and became lovers of the night, seeking rest more than anything else. And this really frames their weariness not as some flaw they were born with, but as the tragic end of a heroic journey. Their life just lost its way, and now they're seeking the total silence of stone as a refuge. They've given up the fight, basically trading their swords for their own burial cloths. So after meeting these three faces of despair, the weary, the vengeful, and the exhausted, our traveler now walks past their chapels of the mourners with a totally new and pretty chilling understanding. It's right here, in the shadow of all their philosophies combined, that Zarathustra delivers his great warning for anyone who's willing to listen. Zarathustra completely flips the script on the whole idea of an afterlife. He doesn't see it as a promise, he sees it as an admission of failure. To praise some world that's yet to come is to basically confess you were never worthy of the breath you were given in this one. It's just a mask for what he calls a non-life.
And this brings us right to the heart of the matter, the central choice. On one side, you've got the holy no. That's the preacher's philosophy, right? A rejection of life that's born from weakness and resentment. And on the other side, you've got the holy yes, a full-throated, passionate affirmation of existence, which, let's be honest, requires incredible strength and courage to embrace everything, the good and the bad.
And here it is, Zarathustra's ultimate judgment. And it's just devastating. He argues that the preachers of death have absolutely no authority to talk about the end of life because they never even showed up for the beginning. They haven't earned the right to rest because they've never truly put in the work.
And so the parable leaves us with this final, piercing question. It's a challenge, and it's not just for the traveler in the story, it's for all of us. It's asking us to really examine whether our own philosophies come from strength and affirmation, or from a kind of weariness we haven't even admitted to ourselves yet. It's a profound call to embrace the wild, chaotic, beautiful dance of life long before we ever consider the final silence.